Right. So recording also has started. Now we'll go through this. We will save it. Close this particular topic. Okay. So this is the sockets as far as sockets is concerned. Okay. So I think all of you are already familiar as far as the importance of networking is concerned. Networking of computers so that communication can happen between processes running on different computer systems, or on the same system also. It doesn't matter, right? So for that, definitely you require some physical infrastructure so that the computers are going to be interconnected by using some what you call interfaces, some hardware mechanisms, right? There are different technologies there that exist and all that. We don't go into those details. You will study in computer network course about what are the networking technologies, what are the different options of having the hardware, how are you going to connect them, and then what are the drivers, what kind of software is available to drive the physical networking systems, right? All that particular thing is going to be there. And the networking support is there across different operating systems. Across different operating systems. Berkeley versions of Unix, if you see here, Unix introduced a new communication tool called the socket interface, right? They're called as sockets. Just like you find electrical sockets, right? To plug and like maybe start using it kind of it. You also have a networking socket. It is it is one of the end point. It is an end point of the communication channel. So one socket will exist on one end of the channel, another socket will exist on other end of the channel. So that means you require two sockets for communication to happen between processes running on different computer systems. Right? So what is meant by a socket and all that, slowly we will move on. So as far as Windows, Unix system is concerned, they are called as socket interfaces. And then two programs are running, both of them are communicating. The two programs that are communicating are also called as client and server programs. Client and server programs. Server programs normally run like all the time, as long as your computer is alive. The server program also is going to be alive in general, providing the service expected from the client programs. Expected from the client programs. So this is what is called a client server program. So that means you have to develop two programs. One is a server program, the other one is a client program. By following certain protocols. Protocols in the sense like what is the job of the server and what is the job of the client. How can a client request the service to the server? How is the server going to reply or give the service back to the client, right? So these things are called as protocols. Who should initiate the request and who should give the reply back to that? And what are the corresponding maybe connecting verbs or words in the communication mechanism? You're already familiar with so many types of servers. You have a web server, HTTP server, it's also sometimes called, whose main purpose is to take a web request or a HTTP request from the client and then send the like a page, HTML page kind of it, as a reply back to the client. So web servers normally run on something called a port number 80. So there are something called ports. Port is a way of identifying a process actually, because ports are exclusively given to the processors. Only one process can have access to a port. You cannot share normally you don't share a port between the processors in general. We don't do that. So that way you can identify, given a port number, you can identify the process on a machine, so that when the packets are coming on the network, the packets will contain the socket details, will contain the port number, will also contain the machine ID, sometimes called as IP address. IP address and port number will uniquely identify the machine as well as the process actually. So anyhow, we will slowly go into those details as we move along. But these features are available across the operating systems. You have, for example, Windows, Microsoft Windows. They also provide the socket programming or network programming, but they are actually called as Windows sockets. They are called as Windows sockets or WinSock library. A kind of a WinSock library is provided in the Microsoft Windows environment. And those services are naturally available in the form of a dynamically linked library, DLL. There will be a file called winsock.dll, right? That contains all the code corresponding to various system calls that you normally use while writing your client server programs. Anyhow, so this is slowly like what are the various aspects that you may have to actually learn how a socket connection operates. So we may have to learn that. And what are the various socket attributes? What are the addressing mechanisms? How do you actually identify the address of a computer system? And how are you going to communicate? Similarly, you want to know the details about information, network information details. What are the computers that are running a particular service? Right? What are the computers that are running on port number 80 or port number 21, like that. You also have a file server, right? File server, FTP servers, normally we call them file transfer protocol servers, which we normally use to transfer the files from one machine to another machine. So you have the FTP server, you also have a FTP client. FTP server will be running on one machine. FTP client can run either on the same machine, mostly not, but on a different machine on the network. So that if you want to copy the files from the server to the client or from the client to the server, either way, you can copy the files by using the FTP protocol. You see, what is a socket? A socket is a communication mechanism that allows client-server systems to be developed either locally on a single machine or across networks. Linux functions such as printing, connecting to databases, and serving web pages, as well as network utilities such as OR login, remote login, we call it, and FTP for file transfer usually use sockets to communicate. All those programs they use sockets in their programming or in the while writing the programs and all that. right? So you have basically two types of sockets we will be learning as a part of this course. One is actually one socket doesn't require any network, but it is possible for you to develop client server programs running on the same machine. They are called as local sockets. They are also sometimes called as Unix or Linux sockets. Unix or Linux sockets. So that doesn't require actually any networking. But it is possible for you to run one program, which we call it a server program, using the local sockets technology. And client program also can run on the same machine. But these two now can communicate with one another. Already we have seen how inter-process communication can happen by using popen related stuff, or by using a pipe actually, right? Your pipe, what is a pipe basically, as all of you know? Pipe has got two ends, of which one end of the pipe can be used for writing some information, which is available at the other end for reading purpose. So whatever is read by the other end is coming from writing end of the pipe. And remember, reading is destructive in the case of the pipes actually. Reading is destructive means what? Normally, when you talk about a file, for example, a text file is there. You read the contents from that file any number of times. The file will still contain the data. You are not removing the data when you are reading the data from the file actually. Whereas if you read data from a what? If you read data from a pipe, right? So once you read the data, it is no longer available. Only one time reading purpose only it is going to be there as a part of it. So that way, like even the case of the socket programming also, you have two ends. You have two ends, and both the ends are now called as socket ends. One end of the communication channel has got one socket, the other end also you have another socket. So whatever is written by a program on one end of the socket is now available for reading purpose on the other end. Similarly, the other end also can write something so that at the other end, like you can read. It is a kind of a full duplex communication. Full duplex means you can use the sockets for both writing as well as reading purposes. Writing as well as reading purposes. So we said now there are two types of sockets, Unix sockets, and the other one is networking sockets. Networking sockets. So we can see here slowly like what we really mean by how to write program and all that. We will get into that. We'll get into that particular thing. The client side of a socket-based system is more straightforward. The client creates an unnamed socket by calling a socket. Okay. So sockets can be given a name. Name in the sense actually, it is something that is fixed so that uh, others can actually communicate or connect to that particular socket. Connect to that particular socket. For example, server is there, server is running on a machine. Now, unless the client knows what is the server socket details about the server socket, if the client doesn't know, you cannot connect. Right? It is like a telephone number you can think of. Right? For example, police station is there. 100, 100 is the standard number for police station to give the complaints via telephone, basically. If you don't know the number of the server, you cannot like connect or avail the service. That is why all the servers normally you have to actually declare or publish right? The well-known server-related details. Police, you are saying 100. Ambulance, you want to get a health service or something like that, 108. Whereas the people who are getting the service, their telephone numbers need not be known, right? So people can communicate or get the service from any telephone number. Whereas 100 is available to the police, 108 is available to the ambulance kind of entity. Similarly, here for the sockets, so you need to specify the port number. Normally, port numbers will identify the will identify the server socket actually. That is why server sockets are called as named sockets. Named sockets. A socket, as you can see here, a socket is named using the system called bind. There is a system called bind by which you can fix a name. It's actually not a name there. It is a number there in fact. But it's okay. Like you are fixing certain information so that clients can connect to that particular thing. The server process then waits for a client to connect to the named socket. Named socket. So server sockets in general are named sockets. Client sockets are in general are unnamed sockets. The client generally connects to the server. But naturally, when the client wants to get the service, server must always be running. Server program must always be running. If the server program is not running, whereas the client is trying to connect to that particular named service, naturally it will fail. Right? Naturally it will fail. So you have to develop both the programs, run the server program continuously, and clients can like any time can request the service and get the answer for that or whatever that you require as a part of it. So there are a number of system calls associated with that, and the very first system call by which you try to get an ID, and the ID is going to be used in the other system calls. Just like you have what are the system calls related to files, file opening, reading, writing, and all that. The first system call for file opening is open. Open a system, open a file. And that open returns an ID. And that ID can be used in the other system calls like reading, writing, closing, and lseek, that kind of thing. So whatever is the ID returned by open, that ID is used in the read, write, lseek, and close system calls. Similarly, here as a part of network programming or socket programming, the very first system call to be used is called a socket. The name of the system call is socket actually, to which it has got certain parameters and all that. And then it returns an ID. Socket returns an ID. And that ID can be used in the other following system calls, meaning that you are working on that particular socket, right? So in the case of the local sockets, as we said just now, local sockets means Unix sockets. By using the Unix as a part of it, it doesn't require any networking. Remember that. Local sockets are given a file name in the Linux file system. How do you identify the local socket? By a particular file name. Most of the time, you try to create files in the temporary folder /tmp or user/tmp. In one of these folders, you can create a file in any place. It doesn't matter actually. But as a simple general rule, this is what most of the time people actually use. For network sockets, the file name will be a service identifier relevant to the particular network. This is going to identify this particular. So for every service, there will be the corresponding file name, meaning that that file name is unique, and the service is available on that particular file name. You are not storing any information, remember. That file is only used as a kind of a means to identify the service. Actual service is given by the socket, by the corresponding program there as a part of that. After socket system call, you have the other things like bind. You have to bind the what you call the known information to the socket. So at the end of the bind, the socket becomes a named socket. It becomes a named socket. And after that, you have to now listen for requests from the clients. And for that, you normally use a system call called listen system call. You try to listen on the network or on the socket for any incoming requests. Generally, because like it is a service, right? It is very important. But in case simultaneously many requests come from the end clients, the server might get a number of requests simultaneously from various clients. That means if the server is already busy servicing one of the requests, another request might come. So if this fellow is busy, you should not drop the request actually. For that, what the mechanism is built is a queue is maintained actually. A queue of incoming requests are maintained so that request will not be dropped. So after servicing the existing client request, it will take another request from the queue so that it will not be dropped there, right? So for that, there is a system called listen system call, by which you can specify the size of the queue. How many incoming connections or requests can be stored in the queue so that they will not be dropped. That is the purpose of the listen. And after, remember all these things, socket, bind and listen, they are all non-blocking system calls. Non-blocking means what? So at the end of the system call calling, it will get out of that. It will not wait there. For example, read is a blocking system call. Read will wait because unless the data is there, it will not proceed. If the data is not there, it will wait. Such calls are called as blocking system calls or waiting system calls. Non-blocking means you will get the service after calling that. After some time, definitely. It will never wait there. So, all these things, socket, bind and listen, they will all proceed. They don't wait. But the next system call is called as accept system call. This accept system call is going to wait actually. Wait for the connection request from the clients. If no connection request is there from the client, all this we are actually talking about like a server side program. How are you going to develop this server program? First, you create a socket, you bind the socket to known socket details, listen for incoming connections, and then accept the actual connection from the client. If there is no request from the client for some whatever reason, no requests are there, the accept system call at that point, it will be waiting actually. It is continuously waiting for that. When will the accept will get out of that? The moment a request comes from the client. The moment a request comes from the client, then the accept knows from where, who is the client from where this request is coming. This accept, what it will do, it will return actually a full-fledged communication socket. Full-fledged communication socket. Until so far, socket is only half filled actually. Only one end of the socket details are available. Server end of the socket details are available in the original socket. But the moment requests come from the client, then the client socket details are also available to you. So that means you have now server socket details, client socket details. If both of them are there, then it is possible for you to communicate any data or whatever. That is called as a communication socket, actually. You can use only sockets, or you can use only communication sockets for transferring the information. But you can use the main socket at the server side to actually wait for a connection request from the client. That is only half filled actually. Remember that. Okay, so slowly let us move on to the other things and all that. From the client end, if you see now, it is straightforward. What do? You create a socket. You create a socket. But you are not binding here. Binding means what? You are binding the socket with some known socket details, known socket port number, address, and other things. Client can get any kind of port number. It's okay, no issue. You don't have to ask for only this particular port, right? So that's why only you create a socket and simply connect to the server. Connect to the server socket. The moment you establish a connection to this thing, so client details are there, server details are there. And after that, you actually move on communicating the data and all that. Now we can take a look into this particular program, right? Or client program. And after that, we can write the server program also. So number of header files are required as usual. So as you can see, systypes.h you have to include. Most of the types that we use are declared in sys/types.h. Socket programming, socket system calls, what you call prototypes, everything is available in sys/socket.h. So you have to include that. stdio.h, printf, other details are there. And then sys/un.h. This sys/un.h contains socket details about Unix sockets actually. This socket.h contains general sockets. There are different types of sockets. So they have split that actually. Generic socket details are available in sys/socket.h, whereas something specific to Unix sockets are available in sys/un.h. Similarly, internet sockets, the other one, network sockets we are talking about, they are called as internet sockets, internetworking. The header file to include for internet sockets is sys/in.h. UN means Unix. IN means internet, IP programming, that kind of stuff. That you have to remember anyhow. Right now, we are actually writing this client program is meant for writing client program using Unix sockets. Remember that. Unix sockets. So that's why sys/un.h you have to include. Include unistd.h and include stdlib.h because you have the other system calls like exit and other things. For all that, these are the header files. And then the main program. So you have started writing the main code. Main code here. So just like you declare the file descriptors while writing the file related system calls, you see, ultimately, like even when you are communicating using the sockets, you will be writing and reading from both ends of the sockets. That means writing and reading, just like you do writing and reading on the files, you also do reading and writing on the sockets. So whenever you do reading and writing, what do? We make use of the file descriptor. So for that you require here, instead of using the term file descriptor, you are using the term socket file descriptor. So declare that int sock fd, socket file descriptor. And then the socket programming is very naively written because it's a very complex thing. in the sense that we use the same socket terminology both for Unix sockets, even for internet sockets, and even for other types of network technologies. See, there are different types of network technologies, like where hardware, the physical medium that you will be using may be different. It might use wireless, wired by using copper wire, or like fiber optic. So different kind of technologies are there. Not only that, that is with respect to the hardware. Software wise also, different companies have started their own way of communicating. But all these things ultimately you have to like in order to write programs or whatever, you will be using the same operating system. So at this end, like socket means there are different types of sockets. So that's why what they have done is the very first byte or the first 2 bytes actually. So they are actually declaring a kind of a structure actually. That structure is a generic structure. Different technologies use different fields within the structure actually. The fields are totally different in different technologies. But remember, the first 2 bytes of that structure will identify the technology actually. Once the technology is fixed, the remaining structure is known. Remaining structure of the uh, structure, right? Your C language structure is going to be different for different technology. So now let us see here. So that's why the structure lengths also are going to naturally be different. When the fields are different, structure length also will be different. So we have to maintain another important like variable called length variable. This is an integer length. We'll get to know like what it is and all that. And then the general like your Unix related structure is corresponding name is struct sock addr socket address. How do you specify the socket address of a given technology? Right, that is identified by the structure here. Struct sock addr underscore this name will be different for different technology. For Unix, it is actually Unix sockets. It is actually sock addr underscore un. Un means Unix addresses, Unix socket addresses. Remember that. For internet, it's going to be in actually. Sock addr underscore in. Internet programming. Whereas here it is Unix sockets programming. What is the limitation of the Unix socket programming? Unix socket programming, both programs, client and server program, must run on the same machine. On the same machine. There is no networking that is involved on the Unix sockets. Whereas internet socket, networking is involved. Server can run on one machine, client can run on another machine. Whereas in the Unix sockets, both will be running on the same machine. How do you identify the service? For that, you have to specify the address. And that address is normally specified by way of file name, actually. By way of file name. Anyhow, so let us first declare the variable here. Struct sock addr underscore un followed by address. This, what are the fields within this? All those details will be there in the, actually in this particular header file, sys/un.h. The structure is actually declared there. Otherwise, without declaring a structure, you cannot use, right? We are only using here, meaning that what this structure is already there in this particular header file. And what is our usage here? This is a variable. Address is a variable whose data type is of the structure sock addr un. And anyhow, int result. Mostly, whenever you invoke a system call, we want to know whether system call is executed properly or not. To capture that result is this thing. And then for communication purpose, we will be using this particular variable. Character ch equal to a. What he is trying to do is Client will send some character to server. Server will do some processing and give a reply back to the client. For that, this is a simple logic. We'll see. Right. But now let us slowly understand. So the first step is to create a socket. The first step is to create a socket. So what is the system call corresponding to that socket of? And it requires three parameters actually. Socket requires three parameters, of which the first one is the protocol or domain actually, strictly speaking. Domain. The first one is the domain. Domain in the sense actually, are you going to use the Unix sockets or are you going to use the internet sockets, right? Because the programming is totally different in the sense that structures are different, addresses are different. So the domain you have to specify. If it is a Unix socket, you have to use this constant called AF underscore Unix. AF stands for actually address family. Address family underscore Unix. So whenever you are writing network programming using Unix system, Unix sockets, you have to use AF underscore Unix. This is a domain, network domain. So what kind of technology are you using? So that you have to specify. And then the second parameter is whether it is what type of protocol are you using. Mostly it's going to be either connection oriented or connectionless protocol. Connection oriented or connectionless. Right? You must have studied computer network, datagrams, right? TCP and UDP kind of thing. Your TCP is a connection oriented one, where the data is continuous, it is a sequential data, it is a streaming kind of thing, TCP based. If it is like a datagram based, it is called as UDP based. So the second parameter, if it is connection oriented, you say sock underscore stream. If it is datagram based one, you say like data underscore gram or whatever. We'll come to that particular thing a little later. So it is connection oriented, sock stream you are specifying. The second parameter is sock stream. Third parameter, mostly it's going to be 0. We'll come to that a little later, but many a times it's going to be 0. We will actually talk about this socket system call later, a little in depth also. First, we are actually trying to understand how to develop client programs, how to develop server programs. And then we'll go into the details about each one of these things later. So what are you doing? Sock FD equal to socket of this. Just like you open, you get the file descriptor. You use the socket, you get a socket file descriptor. Remember that. So if the sock FD is -1 by any chance, that means socket has failed. If it is not equal to -1, then it is successful, right? So that is how like you specify that. And after this now, like what is to be done? You have to now specify the address of the server actually. What is the server to which you want to connect to? Now you have to specify the address of that. So how do you specify that? By using address, like here. You have the structure here. Now you are initializing that so that you want to connect to the server. How do you do that? Address dot sun underscore family. Sun underscore family equal to AF underscore Unix. So this S stands for actually structure only, and this is or socket you can say. S stands for socket. What kind of socket it is? Unix socket. That's why it is SUN. If it is a internet socket, the name will be SIN actually. SUN underscore family equal to AF underscore Unix. So you are initializing the structure so that what kind of details are you initializing? You are initializing the server socket details actually. Anyhow, so address dot sun underscore family is equal to, you specify AF underscore Unix here also, right? Because this is about the server side. Server side, it is going to be AF Unix. Again, you are identifying that. And then there is a field called sun underscore path actually. Just now we said Unix sockets are identified by the file names. So you have to specify a file name for getting a service. So you have address dot sun underscore path. SUN means again socket Unix based path. This is the actual address. Just like internet things, normally they have IP addresses. For internet based sockets, you will have the IP address. IP address, all of you are familiar. It is a 4 numbers separated by a dot. Dotted decimal notation normally we use. Whereas for Unix sockets, it's going to be a file name. File name is nothing but like here you are specifying something. So you are saying server underscore socket. This name can be anything. It is your choice. It is your choice. That file name actually. But that file name should exist there as a part of it. Anyhow, so strcpy because it is a string actually. That's why you are copying this. You are copying this server socket string into address dot sun underscore path. So you specified what kind of family it is, AF Unix, and what is the server socket related file. You are specifying strcpy of that. And after that, you identify what is the structure size. Size of address, you store that into the variable called len. Variable called len. Now, after initializing this address structure, now you want to connect to the server. See, what are we writing now? We are writing the client program. We are writing a client program. Client want to connect to the server. So, there is a system call called connect system call. Connect system call. Using which you can connect to the server. What are the parameters required for doing that? Connect of, specify the socket file descriptor. Whatever is the descriptor returned by socket, the same name you are actually using. And after that what? You see, this socket sockFT is likely to contain the socket details about the client side actually. But now you want to connect to the server. Server details are available in this particular structure called address. So you pass on the address of that. So you specify here, as you can see, ampersand address. But just now we said that this address, whatever that you are talking about, is a generic one actually. This connect system call is there. Same connect system call is used for connecting to different types of technology, whether it is Unix socket, internet socket, whatever. For all of them, we will be using the same connect. But you will be passing different addresses actually here. You will be passing a structure of struct sock addr underscore un for Unix socket. When it is internet related thing, you will be passing struct sock addr underscore in for internet thing. So different structures you want to pass to the connect. But it is not possible, right? You can't pass different data types to the same function. So that's why they have taken a stand of something called passing an address. So that by typecasting that, it's possible for you. So what are you doing? You're passing the address of that, and that is typecast too. This step is very important. You have to typecast different types of addresses, whatever you are passing, to struct sock addr star. You see here, actually this structure is struct sock addr underscore un. That pointer you are sending. Whereas you are typecasting to struct sock ADR start. Because the connect system call can understand only pointer of struct sock ADR. So that's why you are typecasting this back to this particular. And this fellow doesn't know that. So like how do you identify what kind of address is it and all that? So that is actually identified through the length actually. Different structures lengths are different. So from the length, the connect system call can get to know what is the technology being used. Not only that, from the first field also, because this structure, as we said, always this first field will always identify the family number. It is going to be a unique number actually. AF underscore Unix is one number. Similarly, AF underscore INET for internet, the constant is AF underscore INET. For internet IP base IPv6, in case it is AF underscore INET 6. Like that, for different technologies, this constant will be different. So straight away now you understand here, connect of sock FD, then this particular address typecast to that, and also pass on the length of that particular structure. So connect ultimately will return an integer value. If this is negative -1, that means connect has failed. One of the reason might be your server is not running. Right? So you have to now examine if result equal to -1, display the error message and then terminate. So to display the error message, we normally use p-error. Right? We display the error messages by using p-error of oops client 1. It doesn't display just oops client 1 only. It displays this oops client 1 and also the message related to the error. What is the reason behind the failure of that? Message related to error. That is going to be there. And you are basically terminated. See, once at the end of this now the socket file descriptor can be safely used for communication purpose. You can see here write off, just like we use write and read for files and all that, you are using the same system call. Write off, socket file descriptor, and then ampersand ch, because write system call expects second parameter to be a pointer. That's why you are using ampersand ch. And how many characters you want to write? Only one character. That means what is there, capital A or something is there, that capital A is being written onto the channel, onto the socket. After the moment you write here, what do you mean by that? The client is writing the character capital A on the socket, meaning that this character will be transferred to the server actually. Server will perform a read operation there. So this is a kind of a protocol actually. So in this case, always client is requesting first. Client is sending the request. That means client is first writing. Naturally, when you write the server program, what is to be done? Server program must read first, so that it will know what is the request from the client. After reading, you do the concerned operation and write. Whereas here you are writing and then read. See here, after writing, you are trying to read into the same variable, whatever. It can be read into another variable also, it doesn't matter. So that means this read, whatever that you are reading is coming from the server action, is coming from the server as a reply. So and then printf character from server is this thing, close this, exit of save. So like this, it is a very small program, right? Except that there are certain details because we are using the system calls developed by somebody else. So we have to know what is the name of the system call, what are the parameters, what values are to be initialized, and what is the sequence here, and all that. And what are the header files, all that. As far as headers are concerned, you don't have to remember. But the remaining thing you have to definitely understand and write proper like programming and all that. So this headers also normally over a period of time, as you start typing and all that, you will get used to it, right? It's not such a difficult thing to remember even. So what is happening is the client program is sending a one character, and server program is receiving that and then giving another character as a reply to that. We will study the server program also after this. After this particular thing, we will study the server program. Now I think you understand how to write the client program, and you compile that and try to run that. When you run /client1, see here, because server program is still not running, so you are getting a message, oops, client1 : no such file or directory. This is a message. This we are not typed anything here, right? P error of, oops, only this much. Whereas P error fellow will display this and also display the error message corresponding to that. So no such file or directory. Now we will be studying the server program. How are you going to develop the server program? Right? So this is server1.c. Already we have explained about the sequence of system calls to be called. First you have to create this socket as the server socket. And then you have to bind that socket to a known address, bind it to a name. And then listen for the request from the clients. And after that, accept the connections and provide the service. It is a simple mechanism. It creates a server socket, binds it to a name, create a listen queue, and accept to connections. So now, as you can see, all the header files to be included, they are there, and then the main function. So you have to now declare all the important variables, because now you have two sockets, right? One end of the socket is for the server, the other end is for the client. You are declaring both the variables, int server sock fd, client sock fd. Similarly, their corresponding length, int server underscore length, client underscore length. And the corresponding addresses, struct sock addr underscore un, Unix socket. Variable name is server address. Struct sock addr un, client address. Right? You are trying to get all those related stuff. Now, the very first thing that he is actually trying to do is unlink of server socket. Unlink means what? Unlink is a system call to remove a file, basically. So remove any old sockets and create an unnamed socket for the server. If by any chance something is there, you are trying to remove. That's all what you are actually trying to do that. Because the very binding itself will create the file anyhow. So that's why you are actually removing that in case something is there. So after that, you have to create a socket. Socket creation is straightforward, right? You are already familiar. So socket of AF Unix sock stream 0. Right? It's a TCP based connection oriented stream. You are getting into server socket. Now you have to now bind, right? You have to bind your server socket with known known file name, basically. So that's why here you can see server address dot sun family is AF Unix. And then copy the server socket into server address path. So strcpy of server address dot sun path comma server socket. And what is the length of that? Size of server address is in there. And then bind. This bind system call is giving a name to the server socket. So bind of, what are the parameters? First, naturally, all these system calls use the file descriptor. Server sock fd, comma. Second one is address. What is the address to which you want to bind? The address of that particular thing. Ampersand server address. But because, as we said, all these system calls are designed for working on different what you call network technologies. But for all of them, the same function or system call is used. So different structures can be passed to that. Right now you are passing the Unix related structure. When you write internet programming, you will be passing internet related structure actually. So it will not work. That's why you are passing the address and then typecasting that. Typecast that. Struct, sock, ADR, start. The actual structure is actually Unix structure. But you are typecasting that Unix structure address to generic structure. And to know the length of that, you are also passing the length of that. Server LEN. Simple. So there is a lot of similarity between your connect and bind. Right? You are passing the address and you are also passing the length. Now the socket is a named one at the end of it. At the end of this particular thing, the socket has got so well-defined name so that client can connect to that. So whatever name that you are using here must be the same in the client as well as server program. Client as well as server program. Now after this, it is straightforward. Listen, right? Listen for the socket. How many things must be on the queue? The number of client connections can be stored on the queue is 5. You are specifying the queue length. You are specifying the queue length. Listen of server sock, 5. And then because it is a server is going to continuously listen for the request and provide the service. So it is a forever loop. So while one, do the following. This is the actual servicing. Now, the server is giving the service. After creating all that socket end and all that, you are doing. So declare a variable, character ch, whatever. And then you are just for debugging purposes, you are saying server is waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for request from the client. Waiting for request from the client. How do you wait? By using the accept system call. You can see here, like you want to now accept for something, whatever, and you can see here, size of client address, you put it into this. Right? So size of the client address. Client address is not initialized. Look at this. So if you just take a look into this, client address is declared here, but not initialized with any values. Client address is going to be filled with incoming request. Filled with incoming request by the accept system call, actually. By the accept system call. So here, you are basically just initializing this size of client address equal to this and all that, and then making a call on the accept system call. This is the call to the accept. What are the parameters? Accept of socket the file descriptor, and then what? So now you want to accept connection from some client, and client details are to be stored. That's why you are passing on the address of that, address of the client. Again, it is a generic one, so typecast that, struct sock ADR start. And what is the length of that also you have to pass on. Because this fellow, after receiving it, he is going to update that also. That's why you have to pass on the address here. Accept system call will update the value of client address as well as client length. Because it is going to receive the request. And the requested details will be stored into client address as well as client length. Remember that. And this fellow is returning another socket. Remember that. See, this server sock FD can be used only for accepting the request from the clients. You cannot use it for communication purpose. For communication purpose, you have to use this client sock FD. The one returned by the accept system call, that socket only can be used for communication purpose, because that socket will contain both server details as well as client details. Right? So that's why you have accepted a connection, and then once this is over, now you can read the data, because what is our protocol? Client will send a character. So you have to read now. Read off from where? From the client socket, from this particular into the variable ampersand ch, 1. You are reading the character sent from the client. So what this program is basically doing is, whatever character that you send it, it will add one to that and then give a reply. That means if the character is sending capital A, the server will give a reply as capital B. If client is sending capital B, server will give the reply as capital C. So that kind. So because this logic is not that important. What is important here is you are trying to understand it, how to establish connections and provide the service. So the remaining thing is the same for all types of client and server program. The procedure is going to be the same. Only the logic will be different. This particular part is the logic actually. So you are basically reading one single character and giving a reply by adding one to that particular entity. So you have added ch plus plus and then again giving the reply back. So write off client sock fd ampersand ch comma 1 and then closing the connection. Only one request and then close that. So once this closing connection is over, because this is a closing of the while loop, it will go back to the while loop, while 1. So again, what will the server do? So once again server is waiting. After servicing 1, it will come back to that and again wait for another connection, another request from another client. Like that. It is a continuous servicing actually, which is going to be there forever, kind of entity as a part of it. So, and then how are you going to run this? Simple. Compile it and then run. /server1. He's actually giving ampersand saying that it is run in the background, so that you can test it by running the client program in the foreground. So here you can see server is waiting. So this is the output from the server program. Now, how do you know whether it is running or not? There are different ways of doing that. If you just see here, so servers, the moment you run it, you mentioned a file name there, right? So that file is automatically created by the server program whenever it is running. So you can see this is the file name, server underscore socket. That equals is not a part of it, because the capital F, whenever you use, it will identify the type of the file. If it is a socket, if the type of the file is a socket, you will find an equal here. If it is a directory, you will find a slash. If it is executable file, you will find a star there, like that, because of this ls minus lf. So in the very first character of this particular thing, you find s here, meaning that it is a socket actually. So whenever you run a Unix socket-based programs, whenever you run a server program, it will create the file with that particular name. That is why this name is there. So where did you mention that name? In the here. This is a path, Unix path, server socket. Whatever is the name that you give here, with that name it will create a file. With that name it will create a file. So that is how it will actually identify. If by any chance a file is already there with that, then it cannot like it. So it will fail actually. Because so it is a exclusive property. So if the file is already there, you cannot run this. So that is what you actually see there. And you can also see like the PS, what are the programs running. So naturally server program is currently running. Server program is currently running. So these are the corresponding things and all that. Now like you can run the client program after that. When you run the client program, as you can see, /client1, the server waiting you won't see actually like just like for understanding purpose he has put it. But actually what? Client 1 is sending capital A. So that's why the server output is character from server equal to capital B. Character from server equal to capital B is the output of the client program actually. Client program is sending A, and it is receiving B, and that received character it is displayed. But if you want to run client program 3-4 times, also you can do that. You can see here he is testing like that. .client1 ampersand. So that means he is running this program in the background, this program also in the background, this program also in the background. 3 programs. You will get 3 different outputs. So B, B, B. Because every time it is sending the same A, naturally you get the same B as the output. But you can write small change here so that a random character you try to send so that you get a corresponding output. So this is how you can develop the client server program. Right? It is a very simple mechanism we have seen here. Right? So we'll continue on the same thing in the following classes. But before coming to the next class, you try to read the same book, all these things. If you have any other questions in the next class, also we can continue on that. Because these programs, they require a lot of understanding and a reasonable number of lines are there. It takes one full class only for one concept to be explained. Right? Hope that you are slowly following. And in the next class, we'll continue on the same thing. Any questions? Otherwise, we can look into that. Do you have any questions on this?
No, sir.
So if no questions are there, then we can. Okay. So this is about it. So otherwise, like when we can now stop recording and all that. For the next class, as I asked you, please go through this and then attend like next Tuesday naturally. Other important